Grand Admiral Vexterra stood at the command deck of the Arcanian flagship Eternal Dawn, her iridescent scales shifting colors in the ambient light of the holographic displays surrounding her. The vast emptiness of space stretched before them, broken only by a small, seemingly insignificant structure floating at the edge of what the Arcanians considered civilized space. "Status report," she commanded, her 4 eyes fixed on the distant station. "Structure appears to be of human origin, Admiral." Her senior analyst, Kafur, responded. "Approximately 3 kilometers in length, minimal power signatures, no apparent weapon systems. Preliminary scans suggest it's a research outpost or monitoring station." Vexterra's secondary hearts quickened slightly. The humans were an enigma in the galactic community. While most species took millennia to achieve spaceflight and join the greater civilization, humanity had emerged from their solar system barely 2 centuries ago. They maintained minimal contact with other species, established no colonies, and seemed content to remain within their home system. Yet here was one of their structures, far beyond their known territory. "Open communications," she ordered. The humans needed to understand they had overstepped their bounds. The Arcanian Empire had maintained peace in this sector for 10,000 years, and they wouldn't allow an upstart species to disturb that balance. Before her communications officer could comply, a signal came from the station. A holographic figure materialized on the bridge, a human female with dark hair and eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom despite her species' youth. "Greetings, Grand Admiral Vexterra," the human said, her voice carrying an unexpected warmth. "I am Station Commander Sarah Chen of the Silent Sentinel. We've been expecting you." Vexterra's scales rippled with surprise. "You know who I am." "We know many things, Admiral. Your mission to investigate anomalous readings in this sector, your distinguished career spanning 3 centuries, and your reputation for diplomatic solutions over military action. We've been watching, learning, understanding." The Admiral's frills flared with indignation. "You've been spying on the Empire." "Observing," Chen corrected gently. "Just as we've observed the Centaurian Collective, the Rigelian Concordat, and every other spacefaring civilization within 1,000 light-years. It's what we do." Kavur's instruments suddenly chimed in alarm. "Admiral, I'm detecting power signatures from the station. Impossible readings. They're greater than our entire fleet combined." Vexterra's scales shifted to a deep blue of concern. "Explain yourself, human. Your species barely has interplanetary capability. This station shouldn't exist." Sarah Chen's hologram smiled, but there was a weight behind it. "Admiral, humanity never barely achieved anything. We chose to appear limited. We chose isolation. We chose to watch and wait. Because we learned something in our rapid advancement that other species took millennia to discover. The galaxy is far more dangerous than anyone realizes." The station's surface began to shift, panels sliding away to reveal sophisticated sensor arrays and technologies that made the Arcanian fleet's systems look primitive by comparison. But they weren't weapons. They were observation devices, more advanced than anything Vexterra had ever seen. "For 200 years, Chen continued, we've maintained these sentinel stations throughout the galaxy. We've watched civilizations rise and fall. We've documented wars and peace treaties. We've observed technological advancement and cultural evolution. And we've prepared." Prepared for what? Vexterra found herself asking, even as her tactical officer reported more impossible power readings from the station. "For them." Chen's hologram waved a hand, and the space around them filled with data streams, information about thousands of worlds, millions of species. But in between the data, there were gaps, dead zones, places where civilizations should have been but weren't. "We call them the Void Dancers," Chen explained. "They move between dimensions, consuming entire civilizations. They'd been doing it for millions of years, so slowly and carefully that no single species has existed long enough to notice the pattern. But humanity, in our rapid advancement, saw what others missed. The gaps, the silences, the places where life should be but isn't. Vexterra's scales had shifted to white, the color of revelation. How many civilizations? Thousands, perhaps millions. They take one every few millennia. Sometimes they wait as long as 50,000 years between harvests. That's why no one noticed. That's why we built the silent sentinels. That's why we watched. And now, Admiral Vexterra, they're coming again. The station's sensors pulsed, and new data flooded the Arcanian ship's systems. Information about spatial distortions, dimensional anomalies, patterns that had been invisible to their sensors, but now seemed blindingly obvious. Your empire stands at a crossroads. Admiral, Chen said, her hologram steady and serious. You can deny everything you've seen here. Try to force us to leave this sector and maintain the illusion of control. Or you can join us in preparing for what's coming. The choice is yours. But know this, humanity didn't hide its true nature out of fear or weakness. We hid because we needed to understand. We needed to watch. We needed to know who would be ready to face the truth when the time came. Vexterra stood silent for a long moment, her scales cycling through colors as she processed everything she'd learned. Finally, they settled on the deep green of decision. Tell me everything, she said. Sarah Chen's hologram nodded, relief visible on her face. Welcome to the Sentinel Initiative, Admiral. It's time you learned what we're really up against. As the human began her explanation, Vexterra realized that everything she thought she knew about humanity, about her empire's place in the galaxy, about the nature of civilization itself, was about to change. The Watchers at the Edge had finally revealed themselves, and with them came a truth that would reshape the galaxy forever. The holographic displays aboard the Eternal Dawn painted the command deck in an ethereal glow as Commander Chen's data streams continued to unfold before the Arcanian crew. Grand Admiral Vexterra's scales had settled into a deep purple of concentrated focus as she absorbed the magnitude of what the humans had discovered. Show me the first civilization they took, she requested, her voice barely above a whisper. Chen nodded, and the holographic display shifted to show a star system that had once existed near the galactic core. The Luminary, she explained. They were a species of energy beings who had achieved dimensional manipulation technology nearly 1,000,000 years ago. Their civilization spanned 300 star systems. The display showed gleaming cities of crystalline light, beings of pure energy dancing between the stars. They vanished in less than a day. No trace remained except for the gravitational echoes of their worlds. Kavor, who had been silent until now, stepped forward. But our archaeological records show no evidence of such a civilization. Because the Void Dancers don't just destroy civilizations, Chen explained, her hologram walking through the display of the lost luminary worlds. They erase them. They consume not just matter and energy, but time itself. They feed on possibility, on potential, on the very essence of what could have been. Vexterra's frills twitched. Then how do you have records of them? A small smile crossed Chen's face. Because humanity cheated. When we first achieved faster-than-light travel, we discovered something unexpected. Quantum echoes of events that never happened. Most species dismiss these as background radiation, sensor ghosts. But we developed technology to read them, to see the shadows of erased timelines. The display shifted again, showing the silent Sentinel station's true nature. What had appeared to be simple sensor arrays were actually quantum temporal receivers, reading the echoes of destroyed realities. The station itself existed partially out of phase with normal spacetime, allowing it to detect dimensional intrusions that conventional sensors would miss. We have 342 such stations throughout the galaxy, Chen continued. Each one monitoring, watching, waiting for the first signs of the Void Dancer's return. And now, after 2 centuries of silence, we're detecting their quantum signature again. Kavor's instruments chimed once more. Admiral, The station is transmitting additional data. These readings, they're showing temporal distortions in our own territory. The holographic display zoomed in on the Arcanian Empire's outer colonies, subtle distortions in spacetime, invisible to conventional sensors, rippled through dozens of star systems. To Vexterra's trained eye, they looked like the precursors to a naval invasion. Probing defenses, testing responses, looking for weaknesses. They're scouting, Chen confirmed, just as they have with every civilization they've consumed. They send dimensional projections first, testing the fabric of spacetime, looking for the easiest points of entry. Based on historical patterns, we estimate we have between 6 and 8 months before they begin their harvest. Vexterra's scales shifted to the red of battle readiness. The Empire has the largest fleet in known space. Our technology is useless against them, Chen interrupted gently. The Luminary had technology far beyond yours. The quantum archivists of the Perseus arm had weapons that could destroy stars. The crystal mines of the Carina Nebula could reshape reality itself. All of them fell. Conventional weapons, no matter how advanced, cannot harm beings that exist outside normal spacetime. Then why reveal this to us now? Vexterra demanded. If we cannot fight them. Because humanity found a way, Chen said, her hologram's eyes gleaming. We didn't spend 2 centuries just watching. We learned. We adapted. We developed technologies that don't just exist in normal space. They exist in all possible spaces simultaneously. But we can't protect the galaxy alone. We need allies who understand the true nature of the threat. Allies who can help us implement our defenses across multiple dimensions. The station's sensors pulsed again, and new schematics appeared in the holographic display. They showed devices that seemed to fold in on themselves, existing in configurations that made Vexterra's eyes hurt to look at them. These are quantum anchor points, Chen explained. They create stable points in spacetime that the void dancers cannot erase. A network of them, properly positioned, could trap them in normal space, make them vulnerable to conventional weapons. But placing them requires precise coordination across thousands of light years. That's why we need the Empire's help. Vexterra studied the schematics, her tactical mind already calculating deployment patterns. The Council will need proof. They won't commit the Empire's resources based solely on your word. We anticipated that, Chen said. She made a gesture, and a small device materialized on the Eternal Dawn's bridge. A quantum receiver tuned to detect temporal echoes. Take readings of your own. Verify our data. But do it quickly, Admiral. The Void Dancers are already here, testing our defenses. We need to know if the Arcanian Empire will stand with humanity against the coming darkness. As if to emphasize Chen's words, the quantum receiver began picking up new distortions, closer now, more intense. The hunting grounds were being chosen. The harvest was approaching. Vexterra looked at the device, then at her crew, then back at Chen's hologram. Her scales settled into the gold of determination. How soon can you begin teaching us about these quantum anchor points? Chen's hologram smiled. We already have. The Grand Council chamber of the Arcanian Empire blazed with the bioluminescence of agitated scales. 24 of the most powerful Arcanians in the galaxy faced Grand Admiral Vexterra as she presented the human data, their colors shifting through patterns of disbelief, anger, and fear. Preposterous, High Counselor Naxtel declared, his scales flashing crimson. You expect us to believe that a species barely out of their gravity well has been protecting us all along? That these void dancers have been erasing entire civilizations without anyone noticing? Vexterra gestured to the quantum receiver floating in the center of the chamber. The evidence is before you, Counselor. The temporal echoes are real. The dimensional distortions are increasing. And the humans? The humans, interrupted Counselor Miravesh, her scales rippling with dark amusement, are clearly attempting to manipulate us. Perhaps they seek to destabilize the Empire by making us chase shadows. Before Vexterra could respond, new alarms blared throughout the chamber. The quantum receiver's displays shifted, showing a massive temporal distortion forming at the edge of Arcanian space. Commander Chen's hologram materialized beside it, her expression grave. "They're testing your defenses now," she announced without preamble. "A probe, larger than any we've detected before." The council chamber erupted in chaos as the monitor showed a section of space beginning to fold in on itself. Stars seemed to blur, their light bending in impossible ways. 3 Arcanian patrol ships near the distortion suddenly vanished, not destroyed but simply ceased to exist, along with all record of their crews ever having lived. By the first light, Naxtel whispered, his scales pale with horror. "This is what they do," Chen explained, her hologram walking through the display of the dimensional tear. "They erase, not just matter and energy, but history itself. Those ships and their crews didn't just die. They never existed. Only our quantum anchors preserve the echo of what was lost." Vexterra stepped forward, her scales showing the deep blue of urgency. "We need to act now. The humans have provided us with the specifications for a defensive network. If we begin construction immediately—" "You overstep," Admiral Miravesh cut in. "The Empire cannot commit resources based on a single incident. We require further study, further verification." "There won't be time for that," a new voice declared. All eyes turned to see High Scholar Rex Toll, the Empire's leading temporal physicist, enter the chamber. His scales showed the white of revelation. "I've analyzed the human data. Everything they've shown us. It explains anomalies we've been detecting for centuries. Gaps in our historical records. Star systems that appear in ancient star charts but not in recent ones. We thought they were mapping errors, but—" He interfaced with the quantum receiver, overlaying centuries of Arcanian astronomical data. Patterns emerged. Systematic gaps in the galaxy's structure, places where civilization should have evolved, but didn't, stellar nurseries that seemed to have been selectively emptied. "The humans are right," Rex Toll concluded. "And their quantum anchor technology. It's beyond anything we theorized. It doesn't just protect against temporal erasure. It creates fixed points in the structure of reality itself." Another alarm sounded. The dimensional distortion was growing, spreading like a cancer through space-time. 2 more patrol ships vanished, their histories unwritten. "The choice before you was simple," Chen's hologram stated, her voice cutting through the chaos. "You can maintain your pride, deny our warnings, and face extinction, or you can accept that humanity has been preparing for this threat since we first looked to the stars, and work with us to save not just your empire, but all of existence." Vexterra watched the council members' scales shift through colors of deliberation. She knew they were calculating political implications, weighing pride against survival, measuring the cost of action against the price of hesitation. Then another patrol ship vanished, and with it, the luxury of time. "The Void Dancers aren't interested in our political debates," she declared. "They're not concerned with our pride or our protocols. They're coming, and they will erase everything we are, everything we've ever been, unless we act now." High Counselor Naxtel's scales finally settled into the gold of decision. "What do you need, Admiral?" "Everything," Vexterra replied. "Every ship, every resource, every scientist and engineer. The humans have the knowledge to save us, but we need to implement it on a scale they cannot achieve alone." The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Then, one by one, the council members' scales shifted to match Naxtel's golden hue of determination. "So be it," Naxtel declared. "By emergency proclamation, all Imperial resources are now at your disposal, Admiral. Commander Chen, we formally request humanity's assistance in defending against this threat." Chen's hologram nodded solemnly. "Then let's begin. The Void Dancers have started their dance. It's time we showed them some new steps." The next 2 months transformed Arcanian space into a vast construction site. Quantum anchor points sprouted across thousands of systems, their impossible geometries drawing power from the fabric of reality itself. Human engineers worked alongside Arcanian scientists, teaching them to manipulate technologies that defied conventional physics. Grand Admiral Vex Terra stood on the observation deck of the silent Sentinel station, watching as another cluster of anchor points came online. Their activation sent ripples through space-time that her newly enhanced senses could perceive, reinforcing reality itself against dimensional intrusion. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Commander Chen asked, standing beside her. No longer a hologram, she had arrived in person 2 weeks ago to oversee the final preparations. The way they weave together, creating a lattice of fixed points in reality. Vex Terra's scales shifted to show agreement, but also concern. "We've fortified nearly 60% of Imperial space, but the dimensional incursions are increasing. 3 more patrol fleets have vanished in the past week alone." "They know we're preparing," Chen confirmed. "The Void Dancers aren't mindless predators. They're intelligent, adaptive. They recognize the quantum anchors for what they are: a cage." Before Vex Terra could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Kavor's voice came over the comm system. "Multiple dimensional breaches detected. Scale unprecedented. They're not testing anymore." The observation deck's displays came alive with sensor data. Massive tiers in reality were opening across Arcanian space, each large enough to swallow entire star systems. But unlike previous incursions, these tiers weren't just erasing reality. They were releasing something into it. "First visual contact," Kavor reported, his voice trembling. The displays showed them. Vast beams of shifting darkness, their forms constantly changing as they moved through different dimensional planes. They seemed to be made of living void, their very presence causing reality to warp around them. Stars dimmed in their proximity, and space itself seemed to recoil from their touch. "By the first light," Vex Terra whispered, her scales pale with awe and terror. "This is what we've been preparing for," Chen said, her voice steady. She activated the station's primary systems, and suddenly the true nature of the silent Sentinel was revealed. The station's outer hull dissolved, revealing layer upon layer of quantum technology. What had appeared to be a simple observation post transformed into a massive dimensional fortress, its weapons and defensive systems existing in multiple planes of reality simultaneously. "All silent Sentinel stations, activate Defense Protocol Omega," Chen commanded. Across the galaxy, hundreds of hidden human stations underwent similar transformations, their combined power causing ripples in the fabric of space-time. The Void Dancers reacted immediately, sending tendrils of unreality toward the nearest stations. But where their power had erased everything it touched before, now it encountered resistance. The quantum anchor network lit up, creating fixed points in reality that the Dancers couldn't unmake. "Launch the quantum torpedoes," Chen ordered. "Target their dimensional anchor points." Weapons that shouldn't have been possible streaked across space, their warheads designed to affect all planes of existence simultaneously. Where they struck, the Void Dancers' connection to their home dimension wavered. "It's working," Vex Terra observed, her scales showing cautious hope. "They're being forced into normal space-time." But the Dancers weren't finished. One of them, larger than the others, moved toward the quantum anchor network. Instead of trying to erase it, it began to study the technology, its void form rippling with what might have been curiosity. "They're learning," Chen said grimly, "adapting their attack strategy. This is why we needed the Arcanian fleet. When we force them into normal space, they'll be vulnerable to conventional weapons, but only for moments at a time." Vex Terra nodded, her scales shifting to battle readiness. "All Imperial vessels, move to attack positions. Coordinate with the silent Sentinel stations. When the quantum anchors lock them in normal space, hit them with everything we have." The space around them erupted in battle. Arcanian warships, their weapons enhanced with human quantum technology, fired coordinated barrages at the Void Dancers whenever they solidified in normal space. The dancers retaliated by sending waves of temporal energy that aged ships to dust or reversed them to their component atoms. "We're holding them," Kavor reported, "but barely. The quantum anchor network is at maximum power, and they're still probing for weaknesses." Chen's expression hardened. "Then it's time for the final protocol." She turned to Vextara. "Admiral, what I'm about to show you, it's humanity's last resort. The real reason we've hidden our true capabilities for so long." She activated a secure channel to Earth, and what Vextara saw next made her realize that everything up to this point, the silent sentinel stations, the quantum anchors, even humanity's mastery of dimensional technology, had been just the beginning. The true extent of human preparation was about to be revealed, and with it, the final battle for existence itself would begin. The secure channel to Earth revealed an image that defied comprehension. The entire Sol system was encased in a massive quantum engineering project that dwarfed anything the Arcanians had seen. The sun, planets, and space between them were webbed with an intricate lattice of quantum technology that seemed to pulse with impossible power. "This," Chen explained, "is the Crucible, humanity's greatest achievement, and our greatest sacrifice." Vextara's scales shifted through colors of confusion. "What am I seeing?" 200 years ago, when we first detected the temporal echoes of the Void Dancer's victims, we realized conventional defense would be impossible. So we transformed our entire solar system into a weapon. Every planet, every moon, even the quantum state of space itself, all converted into a dimensional anchor point of unprecedented scale. The displays showed the Crucible's true nature. The entire Sol system existed simultaneously in thousands of dimensional planes, its very existence reinforcing the structure of reality. But it was more than just a defensive measure. "The Void Dancers feed on possibility," Chen continued. "They consume not just what is, but what could be. The Crucible does the opposite. It creates possibility. Every quantum state, every potential timeline, every possible version of humanity, all existing simultaneously, all contributing to a single purpose." Another alarm sounded. The Void Dancers were pushing harder against the quantum anchor network, their void forms rippling with increasing power. Several anchors began to fail, reality starting to unravel around them. "We're losing containment," Kavor reported. "The network can't hold them much longer." Chen nodded grimly. "It was never meant to. The anchor network wasn't designed to defeat them. It was designed to hold them in place long enough for this." She activated a final set of commands. The Crucible flared to life. Waves of quantum energy pulsed outward from the Sol system, carrying with them the combined potential of every possible human civilization, every timeline, every choice that could have been made. The energy traveled through the quantum anchor network, using it as a conduit to reach every corner of Arcanian space. The Void Dancers reacted immediately. Where before they had been aggressive, now they showed the first signs of fear. Their void forms twisted as they tried to retreat, but the quantum anchor network held them in place. "You see," Chen explained, her voice tight with emotion, "we discovered their weakness. The Void Dancers feed on possibility, but they can be overwhelmed by it. They consume civilizations by erasing their potential futures. But what happens when you force them to confront endless possibility? When you make them face every future, every timeline, every choice that could ever be made?" The Crucible's energy reached the Void Dancers, and the effect was immediate. Their void forms began to crystallize, possibility itself becoming their prison. Each dancer was forced to experience every potential outcome of every choice ever made by every being they had ever erased. "The feedback loop is stable," Kavor reported in awe. "They're being forced into fixed quantum states." Vextara watched as the mighty Void Dancers, beings that had terrified civilizations for millions of years, were frozen in crystals of pure possibility. Each crystal contained not just the dancers, but the echoes of every civilization they had consumed, every future they had erased. The crystals will be stored in specialized containment facilities, Chen explained, each one existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously, keeping the dancers trapped in an endless loop of possibility. They'll never be able to feed again. As the last dancer was crystallized, a profound silence fell over the station. Vexterra's scales shifted to show deep respect. Your people sacrificed their entire solar system for this. Chen smiled sadly. We sacrificed more than that. To power the crucible, we had to link every human mind, every possible version of humanity across every potential timeline. We became living quantum computers, each of us experiencing countless versions of ourselves simultaneously. It's not always easy. That's why you isolated yourselves, Vexterra realized. Why you appeared primitive to other species. We needed time to adapt, to learn to handle the quantum nature of our new existence, and we needed to prepare to build the silent sentinels, to create the anchor network. Everything had to be ready when the dancers came. The displays showed the crystallized void dancers being transported to their prison dimensions. The quantum anchor network pulsed with renewed strength, now powered directly by the crucible, creating a permanent defense against any others of their kind who might come seeking prey in this galaxy. So, what happens now? Vexterra asked, her scales showing curiosity. Chen looked out at the stars, her expression thoughtful. Now, we rebuild. The Arcanian Empire has proven itself a worthy ally. Together, we can help other civilizations prepare, strengthen the quantum anchor network, ensure that no species ever again faces the threat of dimensional erasure. She turned to Vexterra with a slight smile. And perhaps it's time for humanity to stop hiding. There's so much we can learn from each other. Vexterra's scales shifted to the gold of agreement. As she looked out at the crystallized remains of the void dancers, she realized that the galaxy was entering a new age. The silent watchers had revealed themselves, the ancient predators were defeated, and the combined potential of two great civilizations stretched out before them, full of endless possibility.